Hey everyone, this is Brad Hughes, School Principal and Chief Encouragement Officer from Ontario, Canada. And I've got some good news for you. You found the Good News, Brad News podcast, amplifying stories of heart-led educators moving from positive intention to action. Great people like you, improving kids' lives through service, connection, and finding the fun. So glad you're here. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back. And welcome to the party, because we're celebrating episode number 10 of the Good News, Brad News podcast. I am your host, Brad Hughes, and as you settle in and get comfortable, I've got a 10 spot that says the Good News, Brad News podcast is right on the money today, with an episode that will pay back your investment of time tenfold. And 5 will get you 10 that you'll love my guests today, Jessica Haskins and Lisa Weiler Haskins, mother and daughter educators from Ontario, Canada. Now, Lisa and Jessica are both educational assistants, active learners, and reflective practitioners. Lisa is a local leader who represents and advocates for paraprofessional colleagues in her district. Jess, in addition to her paraprofessional role, is also an elementary teacher candidate and yoga instructor. Both Lisa and Jessica are devoted to the success of those around them and to each other. Now, Lisa, Jessica, and I discuss a number of things near and dear to my heart, including showing up wholeheartedly for others, embracing multiple perspectives and approaches to meet their needs, the protective and restorative power of relationships, and leveraging connection and trust to make things happen. Now, success in our work and the success of our work are inextricable from the conditions in which we work. When we work in spaces where we feel seen, heard, supported, and valued, in spaces where individual talents and strengths are known and leveraged and can shine, we ultimately improve outcomes for ourselves and for those we serve. Now, these are the kinds of spaces Lisa and Jessica strive to create for children and for colleagues. The kinds of spaces where latent potential is persistently developed and gently revealed. Lisa and Jessica's passion for kids and education, for bettering themselves and bettering conditions for others, is infectious. They're each other's biggest fans, and it really shows. I know you'll enjoy getting to know Lisa and Jessica today, and after hearing their story, you'll be eager to connect with them too. So, here's my interview with Jessica Haskins and Lisa Weiler Haskins today on the Good News, Brad News podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back once again to the Good News, Brad News podcast. I am joined by an amazing mother and daughter duo who are both educators dedicated to improving kids' lives by supporting the adults that serve them. And they are truly a family affair when it comes to education. Their names are Jessica Haskins and Lisa Weiler Haskins. Welcome to the Good News, Brad News podcast.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
And to get things started, I like to have our guests talk a little bit about their different roles, their family roles, school roles, and their community roles. So help our listeners get to know you. Lisa, why don't we start with you?
Sure.
My name is Lisa Weiler Haskins. I live with my partner Richard in the beautiful town of Wellesley, Ontario. We have 4 wonderful adult children, Jessica, Michael, Alicia, and Matthew. We are a blended family, and family is very important to us. COVID, this pandemic has really highlighted how much we miss them and how important those times were when we got together and did those fun events. So we're very hopeful that we'll do that again soon. And I'm also very thankful for the technology that enables us to all stay connected.
I am an educational assistant. I have been since 1999. And then In 2019, I became the vice president of our local association. And my role there is supporting EAs and child and youth workers in the classroom so that they can better serve the students that they support.
Lisa, thanks. And Jess, over to you.
So I am currently an educational assistant. I have been since 2015. I recently graduated from Teachers College in Buffalo. I'm also a yoga instructor for Modo Yoga Brantford. I also am a lover of nature and connection and a lifelong learner and self-explorer.
Part of what I want to celebrate today is each of your growth in a number of roles, from student to educator to classroom and community leader. And so what I'd like to get at first is just what is your why? What drives you as educators, and how did that come to be that way? Jess, can I throw things back to you?
My why, I would say I love helping and supporting people. I love people in general. That's a big thing for me. My undergrad was even in sociology. So I find people fascinating. I also really love particularly working with kids. I enjoy the energy that they bring and the curiosity that they have, and also just their perspective and outlook on life. I find I learn a lot about myself from them, and also a lot about the world, and even about education in school.
Lisa, what's your why about why you do what you do?
I became an educational assistant. I was a young mom, and so I would volunteer in school. There was a wonderful teacher who said, you should get paid what you're doing, because I was in there a lot. And I didn't realize that there was an educational assistant position that I could do. And so I did get hired. I have seen the role change drastically since 1999. And so that's what led me to the leadership role. I saw a need for some advocacy because our roles have changed. I do miss the classroom. I miss the kids. I certainly do, but I also am so happy to be able to support educational assistants and child and youth workers.
Jess, what would you say are among your most important contributions to improving outcomes for kids?
I think it's my attitude and how I show up for the kids. I really work hard at learning more about them, and in that way I can know how best to support them, and knowing what goals that they can reach and their potential. I try to take a flexible approach, trying as many ways as possible to support that child, see what works, what doesn't work, adapt to the child, and then also the situation that we're in. Yeah, ultimately, I feel like humans need to be seen, heard, and feel valued. And so I really hope that that's the way that kids feel when they're around me.
So good, Jess. And Lisa, what about you? What are some of your most important contributions to improving outcomes for kids?
I would think it was my energy. I'm able to form really quick connections. I was able to with students, and so I'm able to form quick connections with people, with adults and children, and that helps me build trust. And so then when our expectations are placed on the students, they're more apt to want to do that. I also really like to balance work with play. One thing I did love to do was foster relationships between students and look for those opportunities, whether it was clubs at recess or at lunchtime, or help with intramurals. I really looked for opportunities to bring all the students together.
Lisa, I see our roles in leadership as analogous in some ways. Namely, I know we've both firmly believed that the way to improve outcomes for kids is to love and support the adults that serve them. When you're hearing from your members, especially in the midst of the pandemic, what needs, worries, and concerns are you hearing from your paraprofessional members? And what advice would you give to me as a principal or to our schools or districts to make sure that we're supporting, loving, and promoting the best possible working conditions for members and therefore for kids?
I think the pandemic has really shone a light on the importance of the role of particularly educational assistants in classrooms working with, complex needs students. Right now, during the pandemic, they're nervous, they're afraid for themselves, they're really afraid for the students they support. I would ask that, the leadership in the school just check in on them, make sure they have what they need. and that they feel safe, and just to acknowledge and know how important they are. We tend to, as educational assistants, we sit back. Some people don't even know what the jobs are because our job is to sit back and stay in the background. And we don't want to maybe voice concerns for fear that it will reflect negatively on the students we support. And I think it's going to have to be a shift in culture. That's what we're going to have to see for those frontline workers, and bringing them to the table at meetings, acknowledging all the extra work they do. They have some key essential duties that only they can perform. And sometimes they're all painted with the same brush. But I think individually looking at each of them and looking at their strengths and putting them in positions where their strengths are going to just benefit you and the school. I know so many EAs and CYWs who go above and beyond, and we don't often hear about that because that's not their traditional role. So thank you for asking that question.
Lisa, it's one thing to promote the voice of educators and staff members within a building. It's another thing to make sure that we as school leaders and as district leaders are creating the conditions that allow people to feel safe, to voice concerns, to ask questions. One thing I try to promote with my staff members is that your questions signal an opportunity to fill in communication gaps before they get filled in with assumptions or worst case scenarios, especially when times are tough.
When you have someone who at least feels appreciated and knows they're gonna work that much harder to get the outcomes you're looking for. So it is win-win-win for you to really connect with those workers.
I want to talk with both of you about restoring the energy that you lose through your devotion to your students and your colleagues. For both of you, I know that family is a huge energy boost and a huge way that you keep your energy restored. Jess, what can you tell us about your mom's influence in your trajectory as an educator, but just also as a person?
So my mom is a big reason for where I am at today. She has always been an advocate and worked hard to uplift others. And I really remember that growing up. And she also included us in those experiences. So I remember my mom volunteered for UNICEF, organizing community events. I remember Christmas caroling for the food bank. In minor hockey, my mom was really involved when my brother was playing hockey, and it stands out to me remembering that she raised money for kids who couldn't afford that equipment. And she's always been an advocate for students as an EA, and she had us often I volunteered with her in her classes. And then also she's an advocate for staff as a union rep. She always included us in these things, and there's no doubt that it has shaped me and kind of lit that fire within me. My mom is a strong woman, and a woman who has been through adversity and uses it to not only make herself better for it, but also better the circumstances for others. And I've seen her be brave when she was afraid. I've seen her go against the status quo when it wasn't right. And I've seen my mom grow and evolve to this point and still see her passion and openness to a continual process of learning and growing. So I have an amazing role model in my mom, and that's part, I think, what I carry within me, and I hope that I can provide that for others.
Lisa, your intentions and actions are so highly aligned. And when you hear that tribute from Jess, how do you see your intentions and that alignment reflected in your daughter as a growing educator and reflected back to you in what your colleagues and members are saying about your influence in their lives?
Jessica has always been confident, a leader, an independent thinker, compassionate. She is always someone that her friends and family will go to if they need advice or if they just want to talk. She sets goals for herself and achieves them, but she can also be faced with an unexpected situation and shine in that. She works well with others. She works well independently. She's just the whole package. And I'm just so excited that she chose this path in education. Starting as an EA, getting a bigger picture of what's out there is just going to make her an even better teacher in class. She's passionate about the children she works with, the staff she's working with. I learned so much from her, As a parent, you want to instill good values in your children. You hope you are. You hope you're being a good example. You just want them to be happy. And I'm so proud of her, and I can't wait to see what's next for her. And whatever she ends up doing, I know she's going to do it well.
I get so much joy in helping people. I'm not sure where that comes from, if that's just something you're born with, but it sustains me and keeps me going to make sure people know that they're worthy. And if I can help them along the way and give them resources or be a voice for them, I want to continue to do so.
Do you have the time and the energy to reinvest in looking after yourself? How do you reinvest? How do you keep your fire kindled?
I really do try to make and set aside time to invest in myself. Yoga is a big thing for me, so that's where I find my practice and my learning about myself. One thing that I've learned from yoga is almost to like bring it back to simplicity and bring it back to basics, and that's how I refill myself. I schedule time for myself on Sundays. Those are my days. But also if there's like moments of time, like an hour, just to check in and see, what do I want to do in this moment? I really try to stay aware or be observant of my thoughts and my mind, and then trying to look at that without judgment. I often go for walks outside and connect with nature, connecting with people. I have a lot of supportive people around me, and that helps to refill me as well. Moving my body, connecting with my breath. Yeah.
I love the energy of kids, and I always try to match it. I worked a lot in elementary, and it made me so sad to see kids as young, grade 2, grade 3, who weren't happy to come to school. And I thought, oh man, you have so many years left. So it was just a challenge for me to make sure that when those kids would, want to get off the bus and they couldn't wait to come to school, you got to know the family. So you were indirectly also supporting the families and understanding that the families needed that support, because that's also lacking in the community. Children who have these complex needs, were connected to me and wanted to do well.
Just as we wrap up this conversation today, I'd like you to reflect and maybe take 1 or 2 sentences and let me know what gives you hope.
I do have hope in education and science, and I have hope that what I see in this pandemic, people have really come together and looked for ways that they can support each other, and leaders have been born that maybe you didn't see as leaders before. So I have hope that that's going to continue. Just, human nature is going to keep evolving, and we're back to, what is important, and that's human connection.
I would say what gives me hope is experiencing education from this side as well, knowing what it was like growing up, and just seeing the evolution of it and the different ways that we are trying to approach teaching children, the different ways we try to approach school and supporting staff. Yeah, the kids give me hope, their resilience through this time period, how they're transitioning and doing their best. And honestly, going outside for walks and seeing people and just positive interactions of being kind and saying hello, and that gives me hope.
Jessica Haskins, Lisa Weiler Haskins, thank you both so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having us, Brad.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the Good News, Brad News podcast. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment wherever you found this podcast. And if you like what you heard, please recommend Good News, Brad News to a friend. And please hit me up on Twitter. I'd love to hear from you. You can find me at Brad, BRAD, _Hughes, HUGHES. I look forward to hearing from you and to reconnecting with you on our next episode. Until then, get out there and do amazing things.